the battle between DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas versus A'ja Wilson. Question: are we talking about 3 of the 4 most unlikable athletes that this league has to offer? Question mark? In one damn finals?
Everyone expected A'ja Wilson to dominate Game 2 of the WNBA Finals. She's the league's golden star, the MVP, the public face of the Aces, right? But what she saw that night just infuriated her. It wasn't the loud fans or crazy stalls. No, it was the opposite. Silent rows. So many empty seats. The whole arena felt like it was half asleep, and the cameras couldn't even find any energy. Wilson didn't hold back. Her annoyance was just boiling over.
Well, I got some bad news. Number one, I don't think none of y'all are doing any pre-WNBA prep. I don't think none of y'all are fired up for no games. None of that. In fact, I believe y'all don't care. I think y'all care about the drama around it. I do believe that, but I don't think you care about the events itself.
So, here's what people were saying, even in the locker room whispers. A'ja was staring down Caitlyn Clark. It was wild. Because Clark, the rookie phenom, wasn't even at the finals, but her presence, or lack of it, haunted the whole thing. Deep down, everyone recognized the truth. Fans just aren't tuning in when Clark isn't on the court. For A'ja Wilson, who's a total superstar, it was a huge wake-up call. It made her realize how quickly fame can fade, even for someone at the top of their game.
Judging by ticket prices, neither does anybody else. Wow. If ever there was proof that the Caitlyn Clark fans / Fever fans are now the overwhelming majority of the fandom, look at ticket prices for finals game.
This game, Game 2 of the finals, was supposed to be the absolute highlight of the WNBA season. The Aces were fighting to keep their championship title, and for 4 months, the league had been hyping up this new age of women's basketball, with A'ja Wilson at the peak of her career. But then the cameras panned across the stands as the lights dimmed, and it was just painfully obvious. Not every seat was taken. In fact, tons of them were empty. Broadcasters even seemed hesitant to zoom out too much, probably because they knew what everyone online was already seeing. Basically, nobody showed up.
Holy hell, there's $35 seats right there. Right there. Plenty of good seats available. $46, $42.
And get this, social media went absolutely brutal. Within minutes, photos of those empty rows were everywhere, going viral with mocking captions. What was supposed to be a huge matchup between Wilson's Aces and Alyssa Thomas's son suddenly looked more like a casual scrimmage, if you could even spot a crowd. Even the people working at the arena didn't seem into it. There was just zero championship energy. They had music blasting from the speakers and cheer squads performing, but it all felt rushed, like the league was trying to force excitement that just wasn't there for the audience. And Wilson felt it too. Athletes live for that crowd energy. The noise, the adrenaline. But her passion turned to pure annoyance when she looked up and just saw swaths of empty gray seats. How could a finals game, the culmination of months of work, feel so hollow? How was a league that claims to be growing still struggling to fill the stands for its biggest event?
This should scare the league to death. With DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, and the Mercury in the finals against A'ja Wilson and the Aces, will you be locked in watching this series? Question mark. Yes or no? Hit the poll. 4% of brave souls said yes. 96% said hail to the no.
This whole situation was more than just disappointing for A'ja Wilson. It was humiliating for someone as fiercely competitive as her. But the comparison that came next, that stung even more. Because earlier in the season, when Caitlyn Clark played her Fever home games, Social media was flooded with pictures of absolutely sold-out venues, tickets scalping for hundreds of dollars online, and the whole arena floor just trembling with energy.
Guys, if the Fever and Caitlyn Clark was playing in a finals game, let's say against the Mercury, with all that drama around there, would there be a single ticket less than $300? Now, honestly, a single ticket less than $300. I don't think so. I think you'd have courtside seats go for $5,000.
So, even with the reigning champions playing, the WNBA's biggest game of the year couldn't sell out. Without Clark, the message was crystal clear. The excitement just disappeared. And even though everyone tried their best to stay positive, talking about great fundamentals and elite defense, deep down, everyone knew what was really going on.
You are not invested. You are not interested in watching this BS transpire on your television set.
As soon as casual viewers realized Caitlyn Clark wasn't playing, they just tuned out, and that sent off huge alarms in the league's ratings department. The WNBA had really overbet on its veteran players to carry the championship, completely misjudging how quickly fans had changed their allegiance. They weren't following teams anymore. They had their eyes squarely on Caitlyn Clark. And that realization just hit A'ja Wilson like a lightning bolt.
If Caitlyn Clark was playing, if she was in these finals along with the Fever, now you know why we conveniently did not hear anything about the ankle, blah, 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 and I won't be coming back until the season was basically over. The WNBA was very aware of what that was going to do to ticket prices, etc.
She really should have been able to handle this. The finals were her moment to prove she didn't need the Indiana rookie to draw a crowd. But look, Wilson's face, with all those empty seats and the quiet in the arena, it just spoke for itself. You could see the annoyance building.
I can't wait to see the ratings for this. Because by the way, I did see where that semifinals game against the Aces and the Fever drew like 1.8 million viewers, I think, is what it was. Will they get half of that for this finals? Will they get half of the viewership for this finals?
Okay, by the middle of the second quarter, cameras were all over A'ja Wilson, and she was clearly getting more and more agitated. Not just about the score. There was low energy, she was missing shots, and the audience just wasn't bringing it. Every single basket felt like a huge effort, and during every timeout, it was just this constant, unwelcome reminder that something big was missing from these finals. That's when she reached her breaking point. Sources courtside said Wilson was yelling in exasperation, slamming her towel down, and even taking subtle digs at the league's complete obsession with Caitlyn Clark. Her message was totally clear. She felt like all the attention had been completely siphoned off by the hype around Clark. And listen, Wilson had actually hinted at this frustration before, even during the championship run. Earlier in the season, she'd talked about the media imbalance, saying how tiresome it was to hear Clark's name in every single interview. But this time, it hit different. The silence in the arena just amplified her comments. She could blame the marketers, the fans, or even the schedule, but deep down, she knew Clark had permanently changed the WNBA, and not always in a way that benefited her. Social media picked up on her attitude instantly. Tweets started flooding in, like A'ja is mad at the wrong person, or don't blame Caitlyn, because no one wants to watch this boring finals. What's crazy is, Clark herself had never once complained about media pressure. While Wilson was over here just it was a stark contrast. One athlete seemed to demand attention, while the other just earned it naturally. As the game went on, Wilson's feelings became part of the whole narrative. Fans saw something different from the fire and intensity that commentators usually highlighted. You could see the annoyance every time the camera zoomed in on her face after a bad call or a missed rebound. She wasn't just battling her opponents, she was fighting the ghost of Caitlyn Clark's fame, her unseen presence. Even with Clark not playing, her name was trending online the entire night. Fans were making jokes about how Clark had outsold the finals without even being on the court, and while harsh, it was totally accurate. The buzz around someone sitting at home in Indianapolis was just too much for the WNBA's biggest night. For Wilson, who had spent her entire career establishing herself as one of the most powerful figures in women's basketball, that irony must have been unbearable. But here's the thing. Anger can really blind you. Instead of using it as an opportunity to gain new fans with her performance, Wilson's frustration became the headline. She was supposed to be this graceful leader for the league, but viewers just saw an athlete who was clearly agitated. And as she kept looking at those vacant seats, one thought seemed to be behind every frown. Maybe the problem wasn't the fans. Perhaps all they were doing was following the player who had restored their faith in the game. So despite Caitlyn Clark not even being on the floor, she totally dominated Game 2 like a ghost the WNBA just couldn't shake. Her name ended up in every online discussion. The reactions to a video clip of A'ja Wilson's annoyance weren't about shooting percentages or no, they were all about Clark. Fans were writing things like, "This place would be packed if Caitlyn were playing," or "This finals feels like preseason without her." And honestly, they weren't wrong. It was incredibly clear how different Clark's influence was compared to what the league was offering at that moment. During the regular season, Clark had turned every single venue into a spectacle. Suddenly, people who had never watched women's basketball before were buying jerseys, packing arenas, and setting new TV ratings records. She didn't just bring attention, she brought belief. What's more, without her, the league just seemed so vulnerable. All the thrill, the excitement, those viral moments, they just vanished. After the fever season ended, it felt like Clark had taken the WNBA's pulse right along with her. And Wilson couldn't ignore that fact. She'd been the league's spokesperson for years. She was the definition of consistency. A two-time MVP, she led her club to championships. Yet none of that produced the same cultural impact as Caitlyn Clark's one rookie campaign. No superstar, especially one as competitive as Wilson, can really handle that kind of reality. It had to hurt personally to see the finals playing to half-empty arenas while Clark's name was just blowing up online. And the league didn't help either. From the very beginning, the WNBA had jumped all over Clark, totally capitalizing on her media popularity. Whether they admitted it or not, players like Wilson, Bonner, and Thomas, the more established veterans, were pushed to the sidelines, and you could feel the bitterness. The frustration that broke out in Game 2 wasn't just about attendance, it was about hierarchy. For the first time, Wilson wasn't at the center of the league's universe. Clark was, and that shift completely flipped how WNBA players saw themselves in the spotlight. Even the pundits subtly acknowledged the elephant in the room. One commentator even said, "A finals without Clark feels like a lost chance." That was a rare, on-air admission of what everyone was thinking. Fans weren't tuning in for strategy or statistics. They were looking for connection, for emotion, and right then, the league's biggest emotional draw was just waiting on the sidelines. The night ended with questions, not a celebration. Was the WNBA even ready for what Clark had unleashed? Could it really succeed when its biggest attraction wasn't even playing in the final? That answer was incredibly tough for A'ja Wilson to swallow. She can outscore anyone on the court, absolutely. But that night, she just couldn't overshadow the one player who had completely changed the league's entire ecosystem without ever even touching the ball. And get this, when the league announced its preliminary Game 2 viewership figures, the response was swift and harsh. There was a dramatic drop in ratings compared to Clark's semifinals game. It wasn't just that people expected record highs, it was that the finals had actually fallen to numbers that looked like preseason broadcasts. Social media exploded with disbelief. For a lot of fans, this just validated everything they'd been saying all season. Without Clark, the WNBA simply didn't have anything to sustain the buzz that it had created around her. Across Reddit, TikTok, and Twitter, the comments were unrelenting. "The league is on the brink," people said. This wasn't just a finals game, it was a huge wake-up call. Pride alone isn't going to keep the WNBA afloat. It needs connection, humility, and real leadership before all those new fans who flocked to Caitlyn Clark's performances just disappear.